Hello, welcome to Just Listen to One podcast. And as you can tell, I'm going to be reading about Joseph Donald Ture, I think you pronounce the last name, Jr. This individual is a American serial killer and kidnapper who was convicted of murdering at least 6 people and perpetrating numerous rapes in Minnesota between 1978 and 1980. As of right now, from what I've researched, he is currently serving 6 life sentences at Minnesota Correctional Facility, Stillwater in Bayport, Minnesota. The year that he was born is 1951, so he's in his 70s. And St. Paul, Minnesota criminal record penalty, life imprisonment, and date time frame is approximately October 30th, 1980. Span of crimes is 1978 to 1980, and at least 6, if not more, crimes. Joseph's parents divorced when he was about 10, leaving his father with sole custody. However, he spent most of his childhood in an orphanage and a reformatory. He spent about 6 months in U.S. Marine Corps when he was around 18 years old before returning to the St. Paul area. He worked various different kinds of jobs and usually related to cars. Joseph was considered low income and sometimes had to live out of his car. On October 30th, 1980, he was arrested of suspicion of sexual assaulting 2 women and a 13-year-old girl. While in custody for these charges, he was questioned about the murder of Dinah Edwards, a 19-year-old University of Minnesota student. At least 5 witnesses of Edwards' production reported seeing a vehicle similar to Joseph's Joseph station wagon at the scene. In April of 1981, Joseph was convicted of sexual assault and kidnapping and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Later, he was convicted of the murder of Edwards and conceived a life sentence. While in prison, he confessed to killing Allison Huling and her 3 children in 1978. However, he soon after recanted his confession. In 1996, while still in prison, Joseph was indicted for the murder of Marla's. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, so I'm going to spell it out for you guys. Wohlenhaus. And that was in 1979. After he appeared on 48 Hours in to profess his innocence, multiple women came forward to identify him as the man who sexually assaulted them in the 1970s. And this continued to go downhill for Joseph. In 1997, he was convicted of the girl's murder and received an additional life sentence. And then in 1999, Joseph's cellmate reported Joseph had bragged to him about killing Joanne. I'm not sure how to say her name, so I'm going to spell it out. Bierschbach. But he was never charged with this specific crime with her. In 2000, he was convicted of the Huling murders and received 4 additional life sentences for each one of the Hulings. Joseph's convictions for the Huling and the other girls' murders were upheld by Minnesota Supreme Court in 2001 and in 2004. Joseph has been incarcerated since September 23rd, 1981. He is currently serving multiple life sentences at the Stillwater Correctional Facility in Bayport, Minnesota. He continues to maintain his sentence, leading some to question whether he really committed these crimes after all. Just days after the shotgun killings of Alice Huling and 3 of her children, he was interviewed by Stearns County Sheriff deputies and let go. In the early morning of December 15th, 1978, Alice Huling and her 3 children of her 4 children were shot to death in their beds after rural home near Clearwater, Minnesota. Only 11-year-old Billy survived when he played dead under the covers as 2 shotguns blast narrowly missed him. The murders remained a mystery for a lot of decades. Multiple potential suspects were considered, including a Stearns County deputy who lived nearby and has since died. It wasn't until 2000 that a jury convicted a drifter named Joe Ture, largely based on a confession he allegedly directed to a fellow prisoner, something he denied doing. "I did not do any of these murders," said Ture, who claims to have been framed in order to close the cold case shootings. Investigators had Ture in their grip just 4 days after Huling's murders. He was driving a car that had been reported stolen and harassing witnesses at the Clearwater Travel Plaza near Interstate 94. One of them called the police. I'm in there having breakfast. I am trying to get a couple dates with a couple of the witnesses. Joseph said in a prison interview with APM Reports. That's how get most of my dates with witnesses. The police researched the car and found a metal rod wrapped in a steering wheel cover, a small toy car, and a ski mask. Experts matched the rod to the bruises on Alice Hooling's body. Billy Hooling later described the toy car as similar to the one that had gone missing. The items were turned over. Stearns County Sheriff's Deputy James K., who had been one of the first to arrive at the Hooling's crime scene. He had another deputy interview Joseph, and after evading multiple questions, he was released. Joseph would go on to conduct a string of rapes and murders for which he was later convicted. He's serving multiple life sentences Stillwater State Prison. Born in February 1951, he spent most of his early life around St. Paul. His parents divorced when he was 10, and he wound up an orphanage and reformatized. He didn't get along with his father's new wife and said that his mother was deemed unable to look after him. My mom, she was just moving around here and there, he said, so she wasn't a fit mother to live with, they said. When he was 18 or 19, he said he joined the U.S. Marine Corps, but made it through only 6 months. He returned to St. Paul area, rarely holding a job for long. He worked at a Ford plant in St. Paul, at a yards at a car dealership, as a mechanic or a lot man. Sometimes he lived in his car. Often he was characterized as a intendant. Joseph, who has a young man, wore shoulder-length blonde hair, bushy sideburns, talks a lot, and views himself as a truth teller. I call a spade, he said. I had a lot of problems with some women because I tell them where it's at. If I don't like someone, I don't beat around the bush. In 1981, more than 2 years after Hooling's murders, he was convicted of adoption and raping an 18-year-old woman and a 13-year-old girl in separate incidents near Lake Street in Minneapolis. He was also convicted of attempting kidnap and rape of a 20-year-old woman who escaped by burning his face with a cigarette. After that, he was convicted of the 1980 abduction, rape, and murder of a 19-year-old woman, Dinah Edwards. Edwards, the object of the Husker Du song, Dinah, was walking around her home waitressing job at Perkins restaurant in West St. Paul when she was forced into a car. Her naked body was found face down in the ditch near 2 weeks later, her clothing piled beside her. Joseph confessed to the murder, but now says he was just playing games with authorities and is innocent. In 1998, he was convicted of bludgeoning to death an 18-year-old Marilyn's W. in her family home in Afton, Minneapolis area in 1979, based partly on the same confession he used for the Halling prostitution. I did a lot of bad things, he said. I stole from this and stole from that. I stole cars, crap like that, Bill, but I never hurt a body. I never hurt a certain person. If I burglarized something, it wasn't business, and there was nobody there, hopefully. Retired Stearns County Deputy Lou Leland provided a different portrayal. I spent hours and hours and hours with him, he said. He was very mixed up character. He had bad bringing ups. Life was not easy for him. I don't feel sorry for him, but I can see why he kind of didn't like women. And he didn't probably more than what we got for him for. Of the Hoolings murders, Leland said he did the deed. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and feel free to hit all those buttons and let me know what your guys' thoughts in the comments. It will deeply help me out in so many directions to this podcast. And if you know anyone who likes listening to podcasts, please share this podcast to them, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks. Bye.